We are talking about the brand new Battlestar Galactica series and why it needs to be very, very different. The reimagined Battlestar Galactica has some big shoes to fill to live up to its predecessors, which were innovative in the way they handled relevant issues. Now, Shane, would you like to prelude this or put some information in here that explains that it's not actually like happening yet before we go into this article?
Yeah, so don't get your hopes up. Battlestar Galactica, just because we put this up there, and hopefully you didn't feel clickbaited, there is no Battlestar Galactica actually occurring at the moment. It's just something in the planning phases forever.
Mm-hmm.
But I do want to make one comment that I thought was interesting. The difference between like Battlestar Galactica and say Star Trek, right? Battlestar Galactica almost needs to be rebooted to tell a story, because it seems like the story, the 1978 original and the 2000 series, they have the same story. Right. So there's really no continuation, because the continuation of Battlestar Galactica wouldn't be Battlestar Galactica. So they almost have to go back and retell the story again. So I believe what this article is talking about is, hey, they need to do something different this time, right?
Yeah, but isn't it and forgive me if I'm wrong here, but if I remember correctly, didn't they end with like it being like a secular time thing?
Well, they ended on a new Earth. So trying to determine whether or not they could make it work.
Yeah, but wasn't it like our Earth?
Earth 2, I think. I can't remember exactly
how
it ended, but it was an Earth. But my point is that really you can't start from there. So you have to reboot it again, tell it in a different way, because the story of the Cylon and how everything happened, it's a story. It's almost like a movie that has to be redone every so often. And maybe that's what's taking so long for Battlestar to actually happen again. It's just needs more time to be able to reimagine it. What do you think?
That is actually a really good point, because it is a story. It's not a universe that can continue. Like, it has a beginning and an end.
Right.
And some of the options that people talked about was, well, maybe we can go before and show like the prelude and like what happened, what got to us to that point. But like they did that in Caprica. And, I guess you can go back farther. But like, how far are you going to go back before like
it's not Battlestar?
It's no longer Battlestar. Right.
Yeah, that's tough. That might be why we don't have it yet, honestly.
Interesting.
I know there were some scripts, but nobody wants to watch it and go, number one, it has to be better than the 2000 series.
Right.
It has to be. And that was a good series. So it's going to be tough. They're going to have to come up with something fresh, something different, and they're going to have to find a way to retell the story, because there's nowhere else to go.
Yeah, and another interesting point to that is this show is interesting in the point where it actually has a definitive, very clear, and very set in stone ending.
Right.
So you have to tell the same story, or you have to start with a prequel, and if you start with a prequel, then at what point are you going back? You're just telling the wrong story. So,
Sam Esmail was attached to it, and so when he left to do Apple's Metropolis series, I mean, it really set Battlestar Galactica back. And now they're basically have to start over again with somebody else doing it. And of course, Sam Esmail from the Mr. Robot series.
Right.
But, what could they do different, do you think? Because of course when Starbuck was a different, was a girl this last time, was a man before that. What do you think they could do? We think they would go back to the traditional Starbuck?
Make her a robot
hero. What's that?
Make her a robot.
Or, should it be a her again? Or do you think they should go, because the original character was a man.
No, make it like an actually like a genderless android.
Okay.
And, Starbuck will be like the call signs for something like service, true.
Well, so that begs the problem.
Astral robot droid.
If it's too different, is it still Battlestar Galactica?
Right. Yeah.
It's like there's all these. It's really put in a box when you think about it.
Yeah, and the last reporting was Battlestar is being worked on is a continuation of the 2004 version. So like Peacock was talking about setting it in the same continuity as the 2004 show, which you can't do. It's not possible.
You can, but it's going to be pretty boring, I think.
Yeah, if it's like Earth 2, like
you're going to have to have like a continuation where, I mean, you got to get them back out in space. Mm-hmm. It would be really a whole new story. You know, you'd be cutting a whole new story, I think.
Right. So the focus of this original article was like, well, how can they deal with like issues, and how can they deal with like, you know, issues going on now and explore those things inside a sci-fi world. But in reality, the question is not how do you deal with current issues. The real question is, how do you even make the show in the first place? Because you can't make it a continuation of the 2004 version. You're going to have to just redo the show the same way the 2004 did with Starbuck with the original
78. Yeah.
Right. You just have to make like it just has to be another show. It can tell a similar story. They can start in the same place and end in the same place, I suppose, but it's got to be completely different.
Yeah, and it seems like Battlestar Galactica is really a product of its time when it's made. You know, it just seems like it's really a snapshot of what's happening. So can you imagine a Battlestar Galactica in today's divided world?
I know.
Like what they can come up with. It really might be a pretty crazy version of Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah, like they would probably make like the Cylons wanted the Republic. And us freedom fighters wanted democracy or something like that.
Right, yeah, something like that.
And like the Cylons are going to be red, and the writing on their body is going to be white. Like, and it'll probably look like a MAGA hat.
Like all the tops of their little heads are red.
Make a Cylon great again. You're right. So I don't know. I do not know how they deal with current issues because current issues suck. There's no clear answer with a lot of these current problems. Like, oh yeah, well I can see how that works. I can see how they want that. I think that's ridiculous. But other people don't think it's ridiculous. I think this makes sense. Other people think says I'm racist for saying it makes sense. There's almost no way to make this show. You can't deal with current issues, and you can't continue the 2004 continuity. You're gonna have to just tell the same story, or just not do it. And now we have got. It took us a long time to get here, Shane, but we have figured out this show is not happening. I don't think Battlestar Galactica happens
at all.
I don't think it's possible.
10 years?
Maybe in 10 years when there's different social issues going on and enough people have forgotten about the 2004 version.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. I mean, by the end of this decade, it probably might be ready again. I mean, 2004, you got the 78 version, you got the 2004 version. When you think about it, that's 26 years between the two. So, I mean, yeah. And now we're already 18 years. So yeah, let's let it cook a little longer before we get something else.
Because
whatever they do needs to be a really great idea. Like, please do something great for the IP.
But you're still going to have to tell the same story.
Well, they could tell the same story from a different perspective. They could do, I mean, they did it in the 2004 version to some degree. You can tell basically the same story in a different way. I guess. Change up some of the catalysts and, different things, but
yeah. So that's our conclusion. We had a different video planned, but by the time we got here, we realized you really can't make the show right now. You just can't. You can't do any current issue no matter what current issue you try to do. It's going to be so divided you're going to lose audience members. All the current issues right now are horrible. I don't think anyone agrees on really anything. Like if I went outside and told my neighbor that the sky was blue, he would disagree with me immediately because he thinks I'm some crazy libertarian or whatever.
Right.
It just wouldn't work. So I think you got to avoid that by just letting time pass and letting things calm down, and also letting it marinate enough so people forget about or not so connected to 2004, and you can make some sweeping changes where you can tell the same story, but like you said, from a different perspective. That's the only way you do this.
I like it. We just figured it out for you guys.
Yeah, we figured it out, guys. You gotta wait.